Part 2. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 11. In the mountains, by the creek. Goose Whitting put down his chopsticks with satisfaction. This Miss Shen, no, she already has a child. She should be called Mrs. Shen. Her cooking skills are getting better and better. If he didn't have something important to do, he would really like to stay here forever and enjoy her delicious food every day. No, how could he think so? He is not a gluttonous person. The next moment, he pointed to the roe deer tied to a big tree nearby. Let's eat this tomorrow. Shen Yizi was already used to his behavior of providing food for himself, so he didn't say much when he heard the words and responded with a smile. He couldn't eat much by himself anyway, and the rest was all her and Qingbao's rations. And the furs can be sold for money, so she has saved a lot in the past few days. I think the rice at home is almost gone, so I have to find time to go to the market. Just when I was thinking about this, I saw a few gold leaves being handed over. Goose Whitting said, "It's not convenient for me to go down the mountain. How about you help me go to the county town to buy a few changes of clothes and come back? The remaining money will be used as your errand fee." Of course it's good. Shen Yizi took the gold leaf and said with a smile, "No problem, I will go early tomorrow morning. But I guess I won't be able to come back in time to deliver food to you at noon. It's okay, I'll just eat some fruit to satisfy my hunger." In the past, it was normal for him to go without eating for several days when he was traveling in the wild. But now it was abnormal to eat in different ways every day. Shen Yizi led the roe deer away. After walking for a while, he took the roe deer into the space. King Bao was playing house with Tutu. When he saw such a big guy coming in, he was not afraid at all, but happily pulled the roe deer into the camp. Shen Yizi came into consciousness. Seeing him having so much fun, his heart was filled with energy. After returning, she began to prepare for her trip to the county town tomorrow. The next day before dawn, Shen Yizi got up, put the bamboo basket on his back, put the treasure in it, and then put it into the space. In this way, when Qingbao comes out, he will still be in the bamboo basket, and no one will find any clues. Arriving outside the village, after walking for more than 10 minutes, she came to the official road and sat down in a thatched shed, waiting for the ancient bus to pass by. Transportation in this world is more developed than she expected. There are pickup points at regular intervals on the official road, which is the straw shed where she is staying at the moment. There are carriages and donkey carts specially designed to carry people that will pass by from time to time. Shen Yizi thought he would have to wait for a long time, but not long after he sat down, he saw a car coming. These passenger vehicles are all hung with a red wooden sign, which can be seen at a glance. Shen Yizi stepped forward and asked, and found out that the car was going to the county town, so he got on the car. Because it has to carry people, the carriage has been specially lengthened and widened. There are benches on the north, south, west, and can accommodate about 8 or 9 people. After Shen Yizi came in, the others saw the horrific scars on her face and subconsciously moved to the side. Only a handsome young man smiled naively at her. She smiled back, sat down on the empty seat, leaned against the car wall and closed her eyes to relax. In fact, she was talking to Qingbao in the space. Her consciousness is exactly the same as herself, except that it has no physical body. Qingbao was very happy about her arrival and circled around her. Suddenly, a fishy smell came from the carriage, making people doubt their life. That smell came from the handsome young man just now, and a stream of iron-colored stinky water flowed from his nose. When he touched it with his hand, he couldn't help but be startled. What's going on? Others' first reaction was to cover their noses and stay away. Shen Yizi opened his eyes and said to the young man in a deep voice, "Don't panic, I'm a doctor, I'll take a look at it for you." She pretended to take out a bowl from the bamboo basket and took some of the smelly liquid flowing out of his mouth and nose. She found that there were fish and shrimps as big as rice grains in the liquid, still jumping around. Everyone else was frightened when they saw it. They all asked to get off the car. Shen Yi knew, "Don't panic, this disease is not contagious." She caught a few fish and shrimps and looked at them without changing her expression. The fish and shrimps turned into water as soon as they came into contact with her fingers. Seeing her being so calm, the others couldn't help but calm down. "You have poison in the inner lining of your kidneys. The pus and meat have absorbed the kidney's qi, turned into water, and flowed out of the body. Just eat a few meals of chicken. Chicken can replenish the deficiency and warm the body. It can also attack the poison. If it is attacked, the poison will be dispersed." Shen Yizi made a diagnosis, took out an oil paper bag from the bamboo basket, opened it, and found a whole golden and shiny chicken inside. She handed it over and said, "Eat it." The young man wanted to refuse, but the smelly liquid was still flowing, and the chicken looked delicious, so he took it, pulled off a chicken leg and gnawed it. Others couldn't help but swallowed. And after the boy ate almost half of the chicken, the smelly water no longer flowed out of his nose. In the carriage, the way other people looked at Shen Yizi suddenly changed a lot. "I didn't expect that this ugly-looking woman could have such good medical skills and cured the young man's illness with just a chicken." The young man was very grateful and said, "Thank you, girl. My name is Qin Bin. What do you call me?" "My surname is Shen, you can just call me Dr. Shen." Qin Bin smiled a little shyly, "Dr. Shen, thanks to you, otherwise I would have thought I had an incurable disease. I wonder how much the consultation fee was? Moreover, I also ate one of your chickens. Just give me 30 coins. Qin Bin immediately took out a bunch of money, counted 30 cash and handed it to her. Along the way, the two briefly chatted and learned that Qin Bin was an apprentice at the blacksmith shop. He had taken a job this time and had just returned to the county town after finishing it. Shen Yizi felt something in her heart. She had another purpose in going to the city this time, which was to order a set of silver needles and scalpels. In her previous life, she had reached the world's top level in both Chinese and Western medicine. When treating people, she never adhered to traditional Chinese and Western medicine methods. She would use whichever one was more effective, and sometimes even combine the two. And if a worker wants to do his job well, he must first sharpen his tools, so it is necessary to have a set of silver needles and a scalpel in hand. Since Qin Bin is an apprentice at the blacksmith shop, you might be able to ask him for help when the time comes. After learning her purpose, Qin Bin was very proud and said, "Dr. Shen, my master is the best blacksmith within hundreds of miles. If you want to make something, he is the right one. Okay, then you take me there." After entering the city, Qin Bin led Shen Yizi to the blacksmith shop. There are various utensils placed outside the shop. A young waiter is introducing them to the customers. When he sees Shen Yizi, he hurriedly greets her, "Hello, girl, what do you want to buy? Just take a look and say hello if you like something." Qin Bin patted him on the shoulder and said, "Miss Shen, I am here. Where is the master?" "Master is busy behind the scenes." Qin Bin took Shen Yizi to the blacksmithing room at the back. It was very hot inside. As soon as he walked in, Shen Yizi felt a heat wave hit his face. An uncle in his 40s was forging shirtless, his bronze skin glistening under the firelight, and his arms were thick and powerful, especially when he was forging, his arms would bulge up, making him look very powerful. "Master, I'm back." Qin Bin introduced the two of them, and then recounted what happened on the way back. Wang Kantang, Qin Bin's master, stopped, pulled off the towel hanging around his neck and wiped the sweat on his head and face. He first thanked Shen Yi, and then asked, "You want me to help you fight, what?" "Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 12. Shen Yazi took out the drawings he drew last night and handed them over. There are 2 copies of the drawing, one is for silver needles, with detailed requirements on quantity, size, length, etc. The other part is surgical instruments, including scalpels, pliers, tweezers, etc. In her previous life, she only used one scalpel, which was made of meteorite iron. She carried it with her all year round. This knife could both save people and kill people. Wan Kantang looked at the drawings and said, "If you can make it, please pay a deposit of 10 taels of silver first." Shen Yazi felt relieved. It seems that Qinben is really not exaggerating. Being able to build such a set of tools is enough to prove that his master's craftsmanship is extraordinary. Shen Yazi quickly paid the deposit, took the receipt, and left. Next, she went to the grocery store and sold the various animal skins she had accumulated recently, and got more than 2 taels of silver. Then he went to the drug store and asked the guy behind the counter, "Is your shopkeeper here? I want to do a business with him." After coming out of the drugstore, Shen Yazi put a 50-tael banknote in his pocket, as well as some broken silver and a few slings of copper coins. She used the medicinal materials in the space and the medicinal spring to make several boxes of hemostatic ointment last night. This hemostatic ointment is very effective in stopping bleeding. It can stop bleeding on the spot and speed up wound healing later. She had already tested it in front of the shopkeeper just now. After the shopkeeper asked the doctor in the shop to examine them, he bought all the boxes of hemostatic ointment she brought on the spot. A small box, about the size of a table tennis ball, cost 20 taels of silver. Shen Yazi didn't think she was too open-minded. After all, the medicinal materials for making the ointment came from space. During the preparation process, spiritual spring water was used, and medicinal springs were added at the end. In fact, she made a lot of them at once last night, but she was afraid that if she took out too many at once, it would be worthless, so she only took out 3 boxes. When the drug store owner really realizes its efficacy, he may ask to cooperate with her. With money in hand, rice, noodles, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, daily necessities, clothing, snacks, etc., all in one word, buy. Tired of shopping, Shen Yazi had a luxurious meal at a restaurant said to be the most luxurious in the city. She regretted it after taking one bite. It was incomparable to what she did. Why should she spend this wasted money? Forget it, just think of it as a long-term experience. Overall, this trip to the county town was quite satisfactory to her. When we returned to Jiazhuang, it was already mid-afternoon. After entering the house, Shen Yazi let King Bao out and put him on the bed. He piled the newly bought toys such as rattles, sugar figures, and wooden horses around him and let him play by himself. It was the first time Qingbao had so many toys, and his big eyes turned into crescent moons when he smiled. "Mom has bought so many toys for the baby. Is the baby happy?" "Happy," Qingbao said in a sweet voice. "Does the baby want to express his feelings?" She leaned her face towards him. Qingbao put his little hand on her face and kissed her loudly, kissing the left side and then the right, not caring about the scars on her face at all. Shen Yazi's heart suddenly softened into a puddle of water. How could her baby be so cute and considerate? Love him so much. She brought the little man over and kissed him fiercely, making him giggle. The mother and son were arguing for a while, and then Shen Yazi let Qingbao go and started sorting out a lot of things he had bought. Looking at the rice and noodle vat that was filled again, she felt a sense of satisfaction. After dinner, Shen Yazi started sewing. Although you can buy outerwear, there is no place to buy the underwear that you wear next to your body. You have to make it yourself. Moreover, she was not willing to let Qingbao wear clothes bought outside, so she felt free to make them herself. She is good at needlework. Although she is not very good at it, She is at least good at making clothes. As for embroidery, it is a bit difficult for her. However, the underwear does not need to be so exquisite, just soft and comfortable. She took out a piece of light green muslin she bought during the day and cut it up. A piece of fine cotton is more than 10 meters long, enough for her to make many clothes. Asterisk. Are these the clothes you bought me from the best clothing store in the county? Goose Whitting looked at the two brocade robes in front of him and frowned. Yes, I carefully selected these two pieces. Don't you like them? Shenyazi came here early with a secret desire to take credit. Unexpectedly, after looking at his clothes, he looked dissatisfied. Goose Whitting didn't answer and asked, "Can you make clothes?" "Yes." "Then come and help me. You can handle these two things yourself." Goose Whitting put the clothes back into the bag with disgust. Shenyazi was a little speechless. My craftsmanship is very average, and what I can make is not as good as these two. She thinks these two pieces of clothing are very good. The material is smooth and has exquisite dark patterns. They look very high-end and noble at first glance. The key colors are also low-key smoke green and light blue. In order to avoid him finding it too fancy, she chose simple embroidery. In the end, he was disgusted. It was really a waste of all her efforts. Goose Whitting may have realized that he was being too picky, but these two clothes were contaminated with too many other people's scents, and he couldn't put them on even if they were washed. "Excuse me." He handed over a few gold leaves again. Although Shenyazi is not a money-minded person, why wouldn't he make money if he has money? "Okay, but I'm a little slow in making clothes. You may have to wait for a few days." "No problem." Shenyazi couldn't help but sneak around him. It seemed like he hadn't been seen changing clothes these days. Could he be wearing this outfit all the time? The message in her eyes was so obvious that Goose Whitting couldn't ignore it even if he wanted to. "I will wash the clothes and dry them internally at night." After saying this, he looked a little hesitant. Why did he need to explain to this woman? Shenyazi was stunned. "Oh, that's it? But you can actually use your inner strength to dry clothes. It's really amazing." She always thought it was just made up in a novel, but she didn't expect it to be true. The tips of Goose Whitting's ears feel slightly hot. Is this woman's focus a little off? When going down the mountain, Shenyazi turned to the bamboo forest in the south and dug a basket of bamboo shoots back. It is the time of spring and the flowers are blooming. The bamboo shoots are fresh, crisp and sweet. Whether they are stir-fried or boiled in soup, they are perfect. After returning home, Shenyazi carefully processed the trotters of the big wild boar, cut them into pieces, put them into an earthen pot, added soybeans and bamboo shoots, and simmered them slowly on the stove. Looking at Qingbao playing with rabbits in the yard, Shenyazi felt relieved and took out the cloth and started making clothes. "Qingbao, you are playing with the rabbit." Li Chuntao walked into the yard with a sewing basket. When he saw Qingbao, he walked over with a smile, squatted down in front of him, and fed him a sweet bubble. She had picked this in the mountains before. She didn't want to eat it, so she kept it for Qingbao. "Is it tasty?" Qingbao nodded heavily, and Li Chuntao was overjoyed and gave him the rest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 13. Auntie will eat it too. Qingbao picked up one and fed it to her. Li Chuntao was so moved that she ate it with his little hand. "Okay, Auntie doesn't like this, so you can eat it yourself." She couldn't help but pinch Qingbao's cheek gently. It feels like Qingbao is a little fatter. There is more flesh on his face, which is round and bulging, making people want to take a bite. Qingbao hugged the sweet bubbles she gave him and ran into the house to share them with Shenyazi. "Mom, eat." Li Chuntao followed him into the house, keeping her hands on his left and right sides like an old hen guarding her young, for fear that he would fall. "Well, it's so sweet," did the baby thank Aunt. Shenyazi wiped the juice from the corner of Qingbao's mouth. Li Chuntao waved her hands hurriedly. "Why are you thanking me? They are all picked from the mountains and they are not worth much." Qingbao thanked him obediently, which instantly melted her heart. Shenyazi poured a cup of tea for Li Chuntao, and put out the pastries, preserved fruits and other snacks he had bought before. "Have a try." Li Chuntao took a piece of preserved fruit and tasted it, then didn't move any more. "Sister, are you making clothes?" She glanced at the cloth in Shenyazi's hand. "Well, yes." The two of them were sitting together in the main room, chatting from time to time, chatting about village gossip, and doing their work faster. In one afternoon, Shenyazi had almost finished a piece of clothing, which was a bit beyond her expectation. She thought she would have to work hard for several days. Oddly enough, she was able to use many of the original owner's skills proficiently without any familiarity, as if she already knew them. However, this should be due to the fact that he has completely accepted the original owner's memory. Shenyazi didn't think much about it. She unfolded the clothes and looked at them, and was quite satisfied. She never expected that one day she would make a ready-made dress with her own hands. It was such a sense of accomplishment. Li Chuntao looked at the color and style of the clothes and couldn't help but wonder, "Sister, aren't these men's clothes? Who are you making them for?" Shenyazi paused. Oops, the secret was revealed. Why didn't she notice this? She is a single mother, and it is easy for others to think of her as a man's clothes. "Well, Chuntao, the Qingming festival is coming soon. I'm thinking of making some clothes to burn for King Bao's father, so that he won't have nothing to wear underneath." Li Chuntao was even more surprised. "Qing Bao's father? Sister, do you remember who your brother-in-law is?" Shenyazi could only continue to make up, "Recently, I often dream about some things from the past. Although I haven't completely remembered it, I can remember some of it. It's pitiful that Qingbao's father has passed away long ago." As she spoke, she wiped the non-existent tears from the corners of her eyes and lowered her head, looking very sad. Li Chuntao hurriedly comforted her, "Sister, now that you have Qingbao, life will definitely get better in the future. Stop crying. If you cry again, Qingbao will cry with you." She is not very good at comforting people, so she can only take out Qingbao and talk about it. Qingbao looked at his mother, who was wiping away her tears with a confused expression. She was young, and he was leaning on her legs. From bottom to top, he could clearly see that she had not shed any tears, so he was confused. Shenyazi was almost amused by his confused appearance and quickly hugged him into his arms. "Well, I won't cry anymore. By the way, Chuntao, I remembered my name. My surname is Shenyazi. From now on, you can call me Sisters Hizzy." "Okay, Sisters Hizzy," Li Chuntao called out without hesitation, and then said enviously, "Sisters Hizzy, you must have been a young lady from a wealthy family before. This is such a good name. As soon as you hear it, you will be like us. Country girls are different. Your name is also very nice. In the spring, the peach blossoms are in full bloom and their flowers are shining brightly. How beautiful it is." Li Chuntao originally thought her name was vulgar, but when she heard her say it, she immediately became happy. "It's already evening. In a flash I'm going to cook right now. You can look after some of the treasures for me. You can stay for dinner later." Shenyazi put down his clothes, got up and walked to the kitchen. Li Chuntao was not polite. "Okay, Sisters Hizzy, you can go. I have already started to look forward to it. I wonder what delicious food Sisters Hizzy will make." Thinking of the braised chicken nuggets with yam that she sent last time, she couldn't help but start drooling. The earthen pot sitting on the stove was emitting white steam and filled with fragrant aroma. Shenyazi opened the lid and poked the pig's trotters with chopsticks. They were already stewed until soft. The soup is already there, and she plans to make braised pork and stir-fry green vegetables. 3 dishes are almost enough. Li Chuntao was playing with Qingbao in the main room. He smelled the alluring fragrance that kept coming out of the kitchen, and he felt sick. If she were at her own home, she would have already entered the kitchen, but this was at Sisters Hizzy's house, so she had to be reserved. Qingbao no longer had such worries. He ran in with short legs, hugged one of Shen Yizi's legs, and raised his head. "Xiang Xiang, I want to eat." The tender red mouth is open, like a little fat bird waiting to be fed. Shen Yizi touched his head and said, "Baby, it's not healed yet. Just wait." The braised pork in the pot was still simmering, making a gurgling and bubbling sound. She picked up Qingbao, dipped her chopsticks in a little soup and gave him a lick. Qingbao squinted his eyes because of the fragrance, biting his chopsticks and refusing to let go. Shen Yizi was amused and laughed. "Snack. Yao Niang, come and take a look, Sanwazi is stuck on a fish bone," an anxious voice suddenly came from outside. Shen Yizi hurriedly put down Qingbao and walked out, when he saw Li Dongsheng and his wife walking in with Sanwazi in their arms. "Stuck on a fish bone? Have you given vinegar?" She didn't waste any time and immediately stepped forward to check on the child. Li Dongsheng was so anxious that he was sweating. He was stunned for a moment when he heard this. "Why are you so jealous?" Shen Yizi didn't want to explain this to him now. He went into the kitchen and came out with half a bowl of vinegar and fed it to Sanwazi. But after drinking the vinegar, the fish bone was still there. Sanwazi's face turned red from the pain, but he did not dare to cry loudly, because crying would make his throat hurt even more. Shen Yizi asked Sanwazi to open his mouth, looked inside, and quickly said to Li Chuntao, "Chuntao, go to the kitchen and get me some chopsticks and a spoon." "Here, Sisters Hizzy." Li Chuntao quickly took the things over. Shen Yizi took the things and said to Li Dongsheng, "Let's go outside. It's a little dark here." Li Dongsheng immediately carried the child and walked out, followed by his wife. Shen Yizi asked Li Dongsheng to stand facing the direction of the sun. She pressed the front half of Sanwazi's tongue with the handle of the spoon. When she saw the fish bone stuck in the wall of her throat, she felt relieved. It would be nice if she could see it. "Sanwazi, my aunt will help you pick out the fish bones right now, don't be afraid." She slowly stretched her chopsticks in, and when she picked up the fish bones, she suddenly said, "Look, a big bird has flown in the sky." When Sanwazi's attention was diverted, she quickly and accurately picked out the fish bone with lightning speed. Sanwazi started to cry belatedly, but after crying for a while, he found that his throat no longer hurt. Shen Yizi said with a smile, "Okay, the fish bones are out. You should be careful in the future. When feeding fish to your children, pay attention to picking out the bones inside." Li Dongsheng and his wife were too busy nodding their heads to say thank you. Shen Yizi smiled and waved his hand. "It's okay, go back." After the young couple left, Shen Yizi turned around and met 2 pairs of shining eyes. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 14. Sisters Hizzy, you are so powerful. If it hadn't been for you just now, Sanwazi would have almost suffered. Qingbao rushed over to remind her, "Rura." "Ah, yes, the meat in the pot is probably ready." Shen Yizi hurriedly came to the kitchen, opened the lid of the pot and took a look. Sure enough, the braised pork inside had almost collected its juice, and the pieces were oily and red, like fine onyx. "Let's eat." After Shen Yizi put the braised pork in a bowl, he quickly cleaned the pot, used the remaining fire to fry a vegetable with lard residue, and served it to the table. Li Chuntao looked at the 3 dishes on the table. 2 of the 3 were very big dishes, with a lot of meat. That green vegetable was also mixed with a lot of lard residue. The rich fragrance lingered in her nose, and she swallowed hard. "Sisters Hizzy, You are spending too much money. How come you have made so many good dishes? Just one fried vegetable with lard residue is enough, and you still. She felt very guilty. She would not have stayed to eat if she had known it. In order to entertain her, sisters Hizzy must have taken out all the meat in the house. Shenyazi picked up the chopsticks and tapped it. You are overthinking it. I recently developed a new ointment and sold it for a sum of money. It is enough to eat meat for many days. You can just eat it with an open belly. Don't worry. I won't be left poor by you. She gave her a big piece of meat. The shiny pieces of meat trembled on the glistening rice, dripping with rich sauce. Li Chuntao could no longer resist. She stuffed the meat into her mouth in one gulp, her expression blank. That's great, sisters Hizzy. Now, Shenyazi doesn't need to persuade her anymore, she won't be polite anymore. Shenyazi smiled, scooped a spoonful of braised pork sauce into Qingbao's bowl, broke the meat into pieces, and stirred it up. Qingbao immediately waved the small spoon and ate it in big mouthfuls, until it reached the edge of his mouth. It's all oily juice. Seeing him picking up the rice grains that fell from his mouth and stuffing them into his mouth, Shenyazi twitched the corner of his mouth. Baby, my mother is very happy to see you cherishing food like this, but, forget it, it's not clean, you won't get sick after eating it. Yao Niang, please keep these vegetables. While he was eating, Li Dongsheng came in, put down a basket of fresh vegetables, and ran away. Hey, wait. Shenyazi hurriedly called him. Li Dongsheng paused embarrassedly. Yao Niang, what do you want? As if afraid that she would return the dishes. Shenyazi naturally wouldn't do this. Those dishes were part of their heart, how could she refuse? Go into the kitchen and get an empty bowl, pour a small bowl of braised pork into it, then come out and hand it to Li Dongsheng. Take this meat back and give it to your children, don't dislike it? Li Dongsheng waved his hand and refused. That won't work. The medicine lady didn't charge the medical fee for the child's medical treatment, so how could they still take her flesh? After all, Yao Niang's life is not rich either. Take it, it's not for you, it's for Senwazi. Okay, go back quickly, the meat won't taste good when it's cold. Shenyazi forced the bowl to him, turned around and entered the house. Li Dongsheng held the half bowl of meat with a lump in his throat. Sit down and pick up the bowl again. Shenyazi found that there were several pieces of meat in the bowl. She didn't need to think about it to know who put it in for her. Looking towards Li Chuntao, the little girl was immersed in eating rice, as if she felt embarrassed. Qingbao was grabbing a piece of pig's trotter and chewing it, his mouth was oily. Shenyazi couldn't help but smile, feeling that life had never been so peaceful and satisfying. After the meal, Li Chuntao rushed to wash the dishes, and the dining table was tidy, without a trace of grease. Shenyazi filled a large bowl of pig's feet and soybean soup for her to take back. Sisters Hizzy, I've eaten so much, how can I still bring it home? I'd better leave these for Qingbao to eat. Shenyazi pretended to be unhappy. Take it as I tell you, and open some meat dishes for Auntie and brother Dechun. Okay, let's go. Auntie will be worried if it's too late. You can bring the bowls over tomorrow. Watching Li Chuntao leave, Shenyazi turned around and almost bumped into Qingbao, who was standing next to her legs. The little guy was gnawing happily on a piece of pig's trotters, even the marrow in the bones. He slurped loudly, and grabbed the hem of her clothes with a small oily hand. Shenyazi. Baby, is your itchy? It's hard to clean clothes stained with oil. Forget it, who said this is their own child? I can't bear to fight him, so I can only continue to pamper him. But the truth still needs to be explained, although he will definitely not understand it. After she spoke earnestly, Qingbao put the shiny bone to her mouth and said, Mom, eat it. Shenyazi is really sweet and helpless. Mother is full, you eat. Qingbao continued to the marrow from the bones. It's delicious, just like a little milk dog. Whose family does this cute little baby belong to? Shen Yizi pinched his chubby face. These days, I keep eating soup every day, and I finally made the little guy fatter. He's from my family, Qing Beijianzhen said. Shen Yizi was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly. That's right, from my family. God must have given her such an invincible and super cute baby because she saved so many people in her previous life. When entering the space at night, Shen Yizi suddenly discovered that the space seemed to be a little larger. This is not her illusion, but it is well founded. The table she originally placed at the edge of the space is now about half a meter away from the edge. She did not move during this period. So, can space really continue to grow? But what are the conditions? Did she do something today to trigger this condition? Shen Yizi reviewed what he had done today and found that it was all ordinary. If there was one thing that was different, it was to pull out a fish bone for San Wazi. Could it be that by rescuing people, she could make the space larger? But she wasn't sure, she had to verify it. It was already dark outside, and even with the oil lamp on, the room was not very bright, but the space was always bright, so Shen Yizi took the clothes into the space to make them. Qingbao just let him play. The next day, Gu Swiding looked at the two pieces of clothes Shen Yizi brought with a slightly complicated expression. She had said it would take several days before, but she rushed out in one night. Seeing that he didn't speak, Shen Yizi thought he was dissatisfied. I said what I do is definitely not as good as what other embroiderers do. If you think it's not good, I'll find someone to make it for you. Pretending to take the clothes back, Gu Swiding grabbed it and stroked the cloud pattern on his sleeves with his fingers. No, I think it's pretty good. Thank you for your hard work. After being praised by the male god, Shen Yizi couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth, and asked more and more, is there any reward? Gu Swiding was slightly stunned. Seeing her dazzling eyes staring at him, he suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. What reward do you want? Shen Yizi's eyes slowly passed over his pale pink and lips. If only, ahem, Shen Yizi, what are you thinking about? How can thoughts be so unhealthy? But Gu Swiding only felt that her gaze had substance, which made his lips heat up. He restrained the urge to touch her, and his face became more and more calm. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 15. Just reward me, a gold leaf. Gu Swiding. I thought she would say something. I didn't expect to just ask for a gold leaf. He took out the purse in his arms and handed it to her. You can take it yourself. If you want to buy something in the future, just take it from inside. He actually gave her the money inside and gave it to her for free disposal. Shen Yizi took it happily and said, don't worry, I won't spend it randomly. Gu Swiding actually believes this. After getting along for a few days, the two have established basic trust in each other. A few days passed by, and Shen Yizi thought that his silver needles and scalpel should be ready, so he went to the county town again. After entering the city, she went straight to the blacksmith shop. Qinbin had been waiting for her for a long time. When he saw her coming, he immediately came up to her and handed her two wooden boxes. Shen Yizi opened it and took a look. There was a box containing 18 silver needles, which were inserted into the needle bag in order of length. She took out one and looked at it. The silver needle was as thin as a hair, but tough. The scalpel shines with snow, like a clear water lying quietly in the box. Low-key and restrained, yet without losing its edge. Qinbin looked at it with a bit of envy. This knife was made by my master using the sacred iron from the Dalan kingdom. He also polished it repeatedly with rotten wood. He blew the hair to break it and cut the iron like mud. It is definitely a good knife. Needless to say, Shen Yizi also knew that she held the knife in her hand and liked it more and more. Thank you, master, for me. Hearing what she said, Qinbin felt embarrassed and scratched the back of his head. it should be, as long as you are satisfied. Coming out of the blacksmith shop, Shen Yizi went straight to the largest bookstore in the city. To understand the world, the most convenient way is to read books, and Qingbao is already 2.5 years old. You can try to enlighten him and teach him some simple words. Last time she was so excited about shopping that she actually forgot about it. The bookstore is very quiet. The bookshelves as high as the roof are filled with books in different categories. Guests walk in front of the bookshelves. Shen Yizi looked over them one by one, looking for the books he was interested in. In the end, in addition to children's enlightenment books such as 3-character classic, 1,000-character classic and 100 family surnames, she also bought many books about the customs and customs of the Tianyuan Empire. It was also at this time that she realized that the world she was in was called Tianyuan World, and the country she was in was called Tianyuan Empire. In addition to books, she also bought some 4 treasures of the study. Books are not cheap in any world. When Shen Yizi came out of the bookstore, most of his wallet was empty. But she should be able to make a fortune soon. Sure enough, when she arrived at the previous pharmacy, she was warmly welcomed by the shopkeeper. Miss Shen is finally here. Mr. Su has been waiting for you for a long time. Nangxing, why are you standing there? Go and make some tea for Miss Shen. Use the Yunwu tea that I have on my cabinet. After giving instructions to the waiter, Su Guangbei hurriedly let Shen Yizi inside and led her to an elegant room in the backyard. Miss Shen, sit down. Shen Yizi smiled and sat down. Miss Shen, Su will stop beating around the bush. Do you still have the hemostatic ointment you sold to our shop last time? To be honest, the effect of that ointment is really good. A few days ago, there was a man who was covered in blood. Orion was brought here, and when he saw that he was dying, I acted as a doctor and applied the hemostatic ointment on him. Unexpectedly, the bleeding stopped on the spot. Now, his life has been saved, and he came to me personally to thank me yesterday. Su Guangbei still finds it incredible. The way he looks at Shen Yizi is like looking at a living god. Shen Yizi was a little worried. She had already diluted the medicine several times. She was afraid that the medicine would be too effective and attract others' attention, but she still underestimated the effectiveness of the hemostatic ointment. However, her face was calm, as if she had expected it. Shopkeeper Su, you have been dealing with medicines for many years. You should know that it is not easy to make such a powerful hemostatic medicine. Yes, that's for sure. But don't worry, Miss Shen, as long as you can continue to supply medicine to our Huishan Hall, the price is not a problem. Su Guangbei stared at her with burning eyes. Shen Yizi pondered for a long time and then said, I also want to continue to supply medicine, but it is not easy to make hemostatic ointment, and there is nothing I can do. I can only make 10 boxes in a month, which is my limit. 10 boxes, this is a bit too little, but it's better than nothing. In fact, if the prescription can be bought directly, with the strength of Huishantang, it won't be a problem to have as many ointments as you want. Just, why is the prescription so important? Miss Shen was afraid that she wouldn't sell it to him easily, so Su Guangbei didn't mention it. Now it's better to establish a good relationship with her first and monopolize the hemostatic ointment in your hands. You can slowly plan the prescription. In fact, Su Guangbei was confused. The prescription used by Shen Yizi was not too surprising, and could even be said to be very ordinary. However, the medicinal materials and water used in the pharmaceutical process came from space, and medicinal springs were added, which made the original ordinary medicine. The hemostatic cream has miraculous effects. 10 boxes are also fine. Su is willing to bid 50 taels per box. However, Su hopes that Miss Shen will no longer sell the medicine to others. Is that okay? 50 taels per box? Shen Yizi felt happy in his heart, but his face remained calm, and he even took a leisurely sip of tea. Sugwongbei saw that she was silent and thought she was not satisfied, so he hesitated and said, then, 60 taels. This is already the highest price Su can afford. Shenyazi didn't expect that a box of ointment would cost 10 taels of silver in the time it took him to drink some tea. Well, okay, but we have to sign an agreement. Sugwongbei was so anxious that he was afraid that Shenyazi would regret it. After the agreement was signed, Shenyazi took out 2 boxes of ointment and said, I made these in the past few days. Sugwongbei almost rushed to take it. In order to show his trust in Shenyazi as a partner, he did not check it on the spot, but handed it directly to his clerk Nansing. However, as soon as Nansing went out, he took the medicine to the doctor sitting in the hotel for examination. After confirming that there was no problem, he walked into the room again and nodded lightly to Sugwongbei. Shenyazi took all this insight, but pretended not to know. With 120 more taels of silver in her pocket, she felt that her future with money was bright. In this era when 1 copper can buy a big meat bun, 120 taels of silver is a huge sum of money. Before leaving, Shenyazi made a request to Sugwongbei, asking him to help pay attention to the 3 herbs she needed. Sugwongbei readily agreed. Don't worry, Miss Shen. I will send someone to inform you as soon as there is news. Shenyazi had already told him his address when signing the agreement. After Shenyazi left, Sugwongbei looked at the 2 boxes of ointment with a smile on his face. Judging from his experience, people are rushing to buy this small box of ointment, even if it costs 100 taels of silver. After all, this is something that can save someone's life at a critical moment. Those rich families have a lot of money, but they are still afraid of spending money on anything that can save their lives. Ha ha ha, more importantly, this hemostatic ointment is different from any ointment on the market and is of great research value. If he is sent back to his family, he will definitely be praised by the head of the family. This is the reason why he holds Shenyazi in such high regard. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 16. At the beginning of man's life, his nature is good. Baby, come and say to me, man, at the beginning. Shenyazi was sitting on the bed with Qingbao in her arms. There was a small table beside her. She was holding a 3-character scripture in her hand, pointing to the words on it and teaching Qingbao to read. Qingbao looked at the words on it very seriously. People, ji, pigs. Ft. Shenyazi laughed. Ha ha ha, you are a pig, oh my god, baby, how can you be so cute, ha ha ha, I can't do it anymore, oh, my stomach hurts. Shenyazi fell on the bed and couldn't stop laughing. Qingbao looked at her blankly. Although he didn't understand what she was laughing at, he also laughed. The mother and son smiled at each other like fools. It took a lot of willpower for Shenyazi to stop. However, when she thought of what Qingbao had just said about human pigs, her stomach twitched. Forget it, it's still too early to learn the 3-character classic now. Our baby is still young, so let's start by recognizing the characters. Shenyazi recalled various parenting scriptures that he had accidentally seen before, and decided to make some flashcards first. First, cut the rice paper you bought into squares, and then draw simple pictures on them, each picture corresponding to a word. After making more than a dozen sheets, Shenyazi used needle and thread to sew the square paper into a booklet. It looks quite ugly, but Qingbao is very supportive, holding the booklet in his arms and unwilling to let go. Obviously he likes it very much. Baby, this is Hua, come on, say it to me, Hua. Hair dash. Shenyazi. What should I do? I want to laugh again. No, she had to hold back. Coughed twice, let's continue, Hua. Hair dash. Dr. Shen, my sister-in-law is having a difficult delivery, please come with me to have a look. A teenage boy ran into the yard and shouted out of breath. Thanks to Li Chuntao's publicity, everyone in the village now knows Shen Yazi's real name. The title also changed from the original Yao Niang to Dr. Shen. Shen Yazi's expression changed. Don't worry, I'll get the medicine box and go there. Shen Yazi placed Qingbao in the space, took the medicine box and followed Li Xiaodong quickly to his house. Dr. Shen, as soon as he saw her, Li Jingjin, who was squatting in front of the door and pulling his hair, immediately came to greet her, as if he had seen a savior. Shen Yazi nodded at him and entered the delivery room directly without saying anything. The smell of blood came to my face. The midwife has left, and Li Jingjin's daughter-in-law Yang Qifen is lying on the bed with a deathly pale face, breathless, and a few strands of wet hair scattered on her face. Shen Yazi immediately poured a glass of water, added a drop of spiritual spring, and fed Yang Qifen. Sister Qifen, I will help you give birth to the child. Don't give up. After drinking the spirit spring, Yang Qifen felt that her emptied body was injected with vitality, and she regained her strength. Looking at Shen Yazi's clear and calm eyes, she believed it somehow. Well, I will give birth to the child even if I die. Dr. Shen, please help me. She held Shen Yazi's hand tightly. Good. Shen Yazi checked Yang Qifen's condition and found a large pool of blood under her body, staining the mattress red. The fetus was obviously in an incorrect position, with its feet coming out first, and the terrible thing was that it was still stuck. Now that the amniotic water has broken, the fetus will suffocate to death in it soon. So there is not much time left for her. Shen Yazi made a quick decision in his heart, walked to the door and told Li Jingjin, stay at the door and don't let anyone in. Do you understand? Dr. Shen, my wife. She and the child will be fine, all you have to do is guard the door and not let anyone come in and disturb me, can you do that? Able. Shen Yazi closed the door tightly, walked back to the bed, covered Yang Qifen's eyes with a gauze, and fed her an analgesic pill. Now, you don't have to worry about anything, just stay awake. She took out the scalpel, quickly sterilized it, and then cut open Yang Qifen's stomach. The baby in the belly was so suffocated that his face was bruised. Shen Yazi carefully took the child out, sucked out the dirt from the child's mouth, and kept breathing out of him. Finally, after a few minutes, the child opened his mouth and burst into loud wails. Li Jingjin outside the door heard the cry. He was stunned for a moment, and then large tears fell from his eyes. Li Xiaodong jumped up with excitement. Brother, my sister-in-law has given birth. Yes, I gave birth. Li Jingjin leaned against the wall as if exhausted, wiping away his tears. In the room, Shen Yazi fed the child some spiritual spring water, wrapped him up, and placed him next to Yang Qifen. At this time, the effect of the analgesic pills on her body had not yet worn off. She only felt as if her stomach had been cut open, and then the child was separated from her body. After that, she heard the child's cry. Her child was born safely. She couldn't help but shed tears from the corners of her eyes. She wanted to hug the child, but Shen Yazi quickly stopped her. Don't move around yet, the child is right next to you and can't run away. She threaded the catgut prepared in advance into the eye of the needle and began to sew up the wound on her stomach. She moved very quickly but very steadily, finishing it in less than 2 minutes. After the suturing was completed, she applied a layer of hemostatic ointment on Yang Qifen's wound. With a squeak, the door opened. Brothers Li Jingjin and Li Xiaodong looked over with bright eyes. Shen Yazi smiled and said, Miss Qifen and the child are fine. You can go in. She stepped aside. Li Jingjin couldn't bear it anymore and rushed in immediately. He ran to the bedside and saw his wife, who looked peaceful, and the little baby lying in her arms. He was suddenly frozen in place, eager to step forward. But what are you afraid of? Yang Qifen glared at him. You idiot, why are you still standing there? Don't you want to see our child? It's a boy. Li Xiaodong didn't have so many scruples. He just lay down beside the bed and looked at it with great curiosity. Sister-in-law, will I have a nephew in the future? Yes, you will be my uncle from now on, so you have to protect your nephew. Li Xiaodong nodded hastily. Sister-in-law, don't worry, I will never let him be bullied. Shen Yizi returned home briskly, but the moment he stepped into the yard, he was stunned. Why are you here? Under the almond tree in the yard, a man in a light blue robe turned around and said, You didn't bring me food. There was a hint of grievance in his tone. Shen Yi knows everything. Isn't this a special situation today? Sorry, there is a woman in the village who is having difficulty giving birth. Please let me go and have a look. Fortunately, both the adults and the child are fine. When I saw that child, I couldn't help but think of Qingbao when he was just born. He was also a small ball at that time. It grew into a big dumpling in the blink of an eye. When talking about Qingbao, her eyes were full of soft light. Gu Switting's eyes followed her involuntarily, and his mood became brighter as he looked at the smile on her lips. Shen Yizi raised her eyes inadvertently and met his eyes. She was startled. Look at me, why are I telling you this? You go inside and sit for a while, I'll go cook. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 17. You sit down for a while. After entering the room, Shen Yizi poured him a cup of tea. I use a newly purchased bamboo carving cup. She bought a set of 12 pieces in total, which were carved according to the 12 zodiac animals. They looked very interesting. She usually uses a monkey cup because she was a monkey in her previous life. Qingbao used a small sheep cup. The rest she used for entertaining guests. The tea was not particularly good, just mint tea that she made herself. But mint is grown in space, and the water is spiritual spring water. So as soon as the tea entered his throat, Gu Switting felt that it was clear, sweet, and tasted very good. If you are hungry, eat a bowl of pork ribs and fish noodle soup first. Shen Yizi brought out a large bowl of pork ribs and fish noodle soup. Fish noodles are a special delicacy here. The method is to remove the fish meat, chop it into pieces, mix it with flour, and keep kneading it. After the dough is almost kneaded, use a rolling pin to roll the dough into a circle the size of a pot lid. During this process, you need to add some starch to the dough to prevent it from sticking to your hands. After rolling out the dough, roll it into a roll about the width of your thumb, put it into a pot and steam it over water. After steaming, cut the noodles into chopstick-thick slices. After drying the slices, you can store them for a long time. Eat as you please. It's perfect for making soup. After cooking, the originally stiff noodles will soften into strips, similar to noodles, but much thicker. This soup was stewed by Shen Yizi in the morning. Red dates, bamboo shoot slices, and shiitake mushrooms were also added to it. After simmering slowly in the fire all morning, the soup has thickened and is extremely fragrant. Gu Switting picked up the bowl, took a sip, and silently sped up. Seeing that he was eating happily, Shen Yizi rolled his eyes and went to work in the kitchen. She took stock of the ingredients in the space and decided to make braised carp, fried shredded pork with chives, 8 treasure fairy eggs, braised chicken, stir-fried bamboo shoots, and crispy tofu. She usually goes to the mountains to deliver food to Gu Mainan, so it is not convenient to bring him too much. Now that he is at home, she naturally wants to show off her skills to him. The first thing she cooked was braised chicken, which is an authentic farmhouse dish and is similar to beggar's chicken. The chickens she uses are native chickens that she raises herself. She usually feeds them lingquan water and eats vegetable leaves. She lets them roam around when she has nothing to do, so the meat is extremely fat and tender. After the chicken is processed, stuff the belly with diced bamboo shoots, ham, mushrooms and other materials, keep the outside as it is without losing the chicken feathers, wrap it in bran skin and roast it in the stove fire. Don't worry about it next, just wait for an hour and it's almost done. By then the other dishes are ready and coming out of the oven. In the main room, Goose Whitting finally felt a little better after finishing a bowl of pork ribs and fish noodle soup. Sent the bowl to the kitchen, but he didn't leave. Seeing that Shenyazi was very busy, he asked kindly, "Can I help?" Although this was his first time in the kitchen, he really didn't know what he could do to help. Shenyazi glanced at him in surprise, which made Goose Whitting tighten his thin lips and feel slightly annoyed. "Ahem, no need, just wait outside if you're really bored. How about I go bring Qingbao back and let him accompany you?" Actually, Shenyazi was not used to having others watching when she was cooking. Otherwise, how could she take things out of the space? Goose Whitting also realized that he might be in trouble here, so he walked out silently. Shenyazi pretended to go outside and then came back with Qingbao in hand. "Baby, this is Uncle Gu. You are the only man in the family. Can you help mother receive him?" Qingbao looked at Goose Whitting and nodded. "The baby is great," Shenyazi kissed him. In the room, two men, one large and one small, looked at each other. Qingbao was curious, while Goose Whitting felt like he was facing a formidable enemy. He has never been in contact with such a young child. "I don't know how to get along with it at all." "Is your name Qingbao?" he started the conversation dryly. Qingbao turned around and ran into the room, and ran out again after a while, handing the rattle, small wooden horse and other things in his arms to him. "Play." Goose Whitting. This was not enough, Qingbao took out the snacks from the cabinet and shared them with him. When Shenyazi came out with the dishes, he saw Goose Whitting squatting on the ground, head to head with Qingbao, playing house happily. When he saw her coming out, he immediately stood up, acting like I'm just coaxing a child. She was secretly amused and said, "Hello, Qingbao, it's time to eat. Go and wash your little hands." Qingbao was now completely acquainted with Goose Whitting and took him to wash up with him. Well, this is friendship between men. After washing, one big and one small walked in hand in hand. Goose Whitting was almost half bent in order to take care of Qingbao, a little guy. After living for so many years, Qingbao is still the first person who can make him bend down willingly. Looking at Xiaoduan's bulging side face, he rubbed his fingertips, which seemed to still have that addictive fleshy texture on them. When he was washing his hands just now, Goose Whitting took the opportunity to pinch his face. At this moment, I feel a little bit ready to move again. The food has been placed on the table, and it is full and sumptuous. Shenyazi placed the 8 treasures fairy egg in front of Qingbao. This dish was specially made for him. The method of making this dish is to make a small hole on the top of the egg, pour out the egg liquid, remove the yellow and white and beat it into a paste, then add ham crumbs, diced bamboo shoots, diced fresh mushrooms, and stir together with the steamed crab meat. Then stuff them into egg shells and steam them. She did 5 in total. Crispy tofu is not actually a dish, but a snack. The tofu is cut into large dice pieces, fried until golden brown, and served with fine white sugar for dipping. The method is very simple, that is, when frying tofu, you must control the heat carefully and fry it until it is neither old nor tender, otherwise it will not be easy to eat. Eat it. Shenyazi picked up a fairy egg, peeled off the shell carefully, and scooped the egg meat inside into the Qingbao bowl with a spoon. Seeing that Qingbao was a little anxious, Shenyazi was amused, so he took a spoonful and blew it to him. "Is it tasty?" "Good time." In order to strengthen his tone, Qingbao also nodded his head. For this little snack, he didn't find anything she cooked unpalatable, but seeing him eating happily made her feel extremely satisfied. Looking at the mother and son, Goose Whitting had a vague feeling of warmth, like a family of 3 eating at the same table. "Ah, by the way, I forgot something." Shenyazi ran into the kitchen, mixed a pot of wine with a medicinal spring, and poured a glass for Gu Swiding. How can good food be without good wine? Try it. The wine liquid is crystal clear, and clear, exuding a sweet fragrance, which is refreshing when smelling it. Gu Swiding, who was about to refuse, fell silent and picked up the wine glass and took a sip. Once the wine is imported, it is like drinking fairy dew. It is not spicy but sweet, not dry but moist. It is really a good wine. Even though he never liked drinking alcohol, he couldn't help but try it again and again. Shen Yizi also poured a small cup and drank it slowly. Qingbao thought she was drinking some fine wine and jade dew, so he came over to drink it too. Shen Yizi took some chopsticks and gave him a taste. In the end, he felt that it was not enough and wanted more. Don't drink any more, or my mother will spank you. Be good and eat quickly. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 18. A meal that lasts until nightfall. Although the two of them didn't communicate much during this period, it didn't seem awkward with Qingbao, a cutie, enlivening the atmosphere. On the contrary, there is an indescribable sense of harmony. After dinner, Shen Yizi cleared the table. When he came out of the kitchen, he saw Qingbao asleep in Gu Swiding's arms. The little hands were holding his clothes tightly, his head was tilted up, his little mouth was slightly open, and he made a slight snoring sound every time he breathed in and out, just like a little pig. Gu Swiding looked down at him, his side face illuminated by the light particularly tenderly. Shen Yizi felt in a trance that he was just a young father putting his child to bed. Give me your treasure. She walked over and said softly. Gu Swiding raised her head, and a reddish jade face was revealed in front of her. His black eyes like black spots were astonishingly bright, looking at her scorchingly. Shen Yizi's heart skipped a beat. Gu Mainan was committing a crime by looking at her like this. She didn't dare to look at him, so she stepped forward and took Qingbao over. As a result, as soon as I got closer, I could smell a strong smell of alcohol in his mouth. She picked up the wine bottle and saw that it was empty. Mr. Gu, how could you give Qingbao so much wine? Don't you know he is still young? Gu Swiding didn't tell the difference and just looked at her. At this moment, he seemed unusually well behaved. Shen Yizi was really going to be defeated by him. As expected, he couldn't leave the child to a man. From now on, she must keep Qingbao under her nose at all times. Otherwise, you don't know what will happen next time. She carried Qingbao to the bed, took off his shoes and clothes, and pulled the quilt over him. Just as he was about to go to the kitchen to make a bowl of hangover soup, Li Xiaodong's voice came from outside the yard. Dr. Shen, are you asleep? Shen Yizi looked at Gu Swiding, who was still sitting in the house, and suddenly panicked. If someone caught her as a single mother, there was a man in the house. No, no one can discover it. She made a prompt decision and pulled Gu Swiding up, pushed him into the room, and lay down with Qingbao. She covered the big one and the small one tightly with quilts, and warned in a low voice, "Don't make any sound." Then she walked out. Is it Xiaodong? What's wrong? Li Xiaodong handed over a basket of eggs. Dr. Shen, we were too busy looking after our little nephew, but we didn't even let you have a sip of tea. It's really inappropriate. You saved my sister-in-law and nephew, please accept this basket of eggs. Shen Yizi didn't refuse and took it. How is your sister-in-law now? It's okay, I just drank a big bowl of chicken soup, and now I'm asleep. That's good. By the way, you can take these medicines back with you. Shen Yizi entered the room and brought out a few packets of medicine. These are for health. Your sister-in-law will get better faster if you drink them. Just drink a pair every morning. This. Li Xiaodong was a little hesitant. Take it. Qingbao is still waiting for me, so I won't tell you more. Go back quickly and watch the road carefully. That medicine is not only for health care, but also mainly for preventing infection. After all, she performed a laparotomy on Yang Qifen under such crude circumstances. Although she was fed spiritual spring water, it would be safer to drink a few more medicines. Back in the house, Shen Yizi lifted the quilt, only to find that Gu Swiding was asleep. Qingbao slept beside him with his limbs spread out like a frog, one foot resting on his chest. She suddenly felt ridiculous and funny. "Hey, Mr. Gu, wake up, wake up." Gu Swiding opened his eyes in confusion, looking dazed and innocent, which made people want to ravage him. Shen Yizi held his chest, feeling like he had been hit by an arrow. He is probably drunk. Otherwise, I wouldn't do such a destructive thing. Obviously, he was a reserved and picky young man before, but now he can actually fall asleep in her bed. Looking at her, Gu Swiding seemed to finally realize something and sat up slowly. "Then walk out." "Do you remember the road?" Shen Yizi expressed concern. "Remember." However, the next second, he bumped into the doorframe. Shen Yizi felt hurt for him when he heard this. "Are you okay?" She supported his shaky body. Gu Swiding turned his head and looked at her for a moment, then suddenly hugged her and buried his head in her neck. Just as her heart was pounding, a voice came from her ear, "Mother." "Shen Yizi." "Mom, you are a big-headed ghost." "Do I look that old?" "I am only 18. However, before she could react, her neck suddenly felt hot. Some warm liquid fell down. Could he be crying? Shen Yizi wanted to push him away and take a look, but Gu Swiding held her tightly and refused to let go. "Okay, stop crying, I'm here." She patted his back and coaxed softly. Just think of it as coaxing a big king bao. He probably couldn't leave now, so Shen Yizi simply helped him into the house and let him lie down with Qingbao. Shen Yizi stood by the bed with his arms crossed, looking at the two people lying unconscious on the bed, and suddenly realized, why do these two people look so similar? I didn't realize it before, but now that the two faces, one big and one small, are placed together, the contrast is clear. Excluding the two lumps of flesh on his face, Qingbao's facial features really look very similar to Gu Swiding's, and the more they look at him, the more they resemble him. Could Qingbao be her and his son? Shen Yizi was frightened by his guess. But it was quickly rejected. She has lost her memory and can't remember what happened before, but Gu Swiding won't also lose her memory, right? If she really had an affair with him, there was no way he wouldn't recognize her. So, she still thinks too much. Shen Yizi shook his head and shook that ridiculous idea out of his mind. Now that the bed is occupied by these two, she can only sleep in the space. After tucking the two of them into bed, she took the candlestick and walked out, closing the door behind her. After simmering a pot of soup, she went out and walked towards the foot of the mountain. When she reached the foot of the mountain, she chose a big tree to climb up and entered the space among the branches. This way she will still be among the branches when she comes out tomorrow, and avoid being bumped into. However, after entering the space, she clearly felt that the space had become larger again, and the edge had moved outward by about 3 meters. Based on today's situation, she has determined that treating patients and saving people is indeed the reason for expanding the space. And how much the area expands is directly related to the degree of saving people. It seems that the creator of this space intends that the people who own it can help the world. Although she is not a pure good person, this purpose does not conflict with her own goal. Just, what if she kills someone in the future? Will space shrink? After all, this world is still full of too many unknowns, and she is not sure that one day she will not do something to others. These need to be verified slowly in the future. Shen Yizi planted some new herbs on the newly added land. The seeds were bought by her before. Ginseng, atractylodes, astragalus, gentian, and cassia can all be planted from seeds, but they need to be treated before planting. After planting, Shen Yizi looked around the enlarged space, feeling very expectant in his heart. I wonder to what extent the space will be expanded in the future? How vibrant was it when she planted all kinds of medicinal herbs here? When she thought of this, she felt like her blood was boiling. After harvesting a batch of mature medicinal materials and making some medicine, she fell asleep. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 19. Goose Whitting had a dream about being swept by a flood, and then he felt really wet underneath him. Opening his eyes, what he saw was a white, tender, and cute little foot, standing on his chest. As soon as he tilted his head, it came close to Qingbao's chubby face. His mouth was slightly open, with saliva dripping from his mouth. As consciousness returned, Goose Whitting remembered what he had done last night and couldn't help but hold his forehead. However, he soon couldn't care about those messy emotions, because the wetness under his body became more obvious. He sat up and saw a pool of maps where he had just been lying. Qingbao wet the bed. No doubt. He stared at the suspicious traces, and then looked at the culprit who was sleeping sprawled out. Strangely, he didn't feel disgusted at all. On the contrary, I still think that little cub is cute and want to pinch it. No, this must not be him. There's no way he could be that weird. Ever since he met that woman who was obviously ugly but strangely not annoying, he always did some inexplicable things. She must be poisonous, or have poisoned him. Goose Whitting decided that he would stay away immediately. Leave now, before she notices. Are you awake? Breakfast is almost ready. Let's go wash up and go out to eat. Shen Yizi stood at the door and said. Goose Whitting. By the way, call me Qingbao. Goose Whitting stretched out his finger and poked Qingbao in the face, twice. Qingbao turned over and pointed his fleshy towards him. Qingbao, wake up, wake up. Qingbao, hoo dash. The little snores happily but doesn't wake up. Over there, Shen Yizi didn't hear Qingbao waking up for a long time, so he couldn't help but come over and saw him dryly waking Qingbao up. He said funnily, you can't wake him up like this, look at me. However, as soon as she walked to the bed, the map drawn by Qingbao was exposed under her nose. Qingbao. Qingbao was usually cute, sensible, and considerate, and could make her hurt to the core. However, at this moment, she wanted to pick him up and spank him. Qingbao sat up in confusion. Without even opening his eyes, he stretched out his fleshy little arms in her direction. Mother. Shen Yizi grabbed his hand and bit it. You brat, did you know you wet the bed again? Seeing that she wanted to teach Qingbao a lesson, Goose Whitting couldn't help but said, Qingbao is still young, and bedwetting is normal. Don't be too harsh on him. Shen Yizi almost couldn't breathe. This Goose Whitting, she is educating her son, why is he interrupting? However, facing his divine and beautiful face, she couldn't say anything unpleasant. Qingbao looked at this, then that, then abandoned Shen Yizi and crawled towards Goose Whitting, grabbed him by the skirt of his clothes, and climbed up on him with his short legs staring at him. Goose Whitting lifted his little buttocks and let him sit on his arms, completely forgetting that his pants were soaked with urine. You know, although he doesn't have a mysophobia, it's almost the same. He would never get any dirt on weekdays, but now, his habit has been broken again and again. Shen Yizi crossed his arms and looked at the two of them calmly. Why are you still standing there? Go and wash up quickly and have breakfast. After speaking, he turned around and went out. Goose Whitting looked at Qingbao in his arms for a while, and Qingbao gave him a soft and cute smile. Goose Whitting was immediately warmed by him, and he felt like the sun was shining into his heart. This little cub, why is he so cute? He lowered his head and kissed him on the forehead. Uncle, I will take you to take a bath. Take a bath. Qingbao kicked his legs excitedly. Shen Yizi was setting the dishes when he saw Gu Suiting coming out with Qingbao in his arms, and then used Qing Kung Fu to fly away. Gone. Hey you! She chased him out of the yard, but the two of them had disappeared. After traveling all the way, for more than 10 minutes, Gu Suiting took Qingbao to a hidden cave. In the cave, there was a hot spring rising from the ground. He accidentally discovered this. He had been bathing here these days. Gu Suiting stripped off Qingbao's clothes, then took off his clothes and walked into the largest hot spring, lying down in the water. Qingbao splashed excitedly in the water, crawling all over Gu Suiting, completely treating him like a human-shaped cushion. Gu Suiting looked at him with indulgence on his face. He also washed the clothes of the two of them and dried them using his internal strength. Come, King Bao, let's put on our clothes and go home. After soaking for a while, he carried Qingbao ashore. Seeing that he was still reluctant to leave, he kissed him and said, "Can I bring you back next time? Take a bath." "Yes, take a bath." Gu Suiting dressed Qingbao, held one of his chubby little arms like lotus joints, and put them into the sleeves of his clothes. Qingbao suddenly said something shocking, "Dad." Gu Suiting's heart was shocked and he was stunned. What did this little thing just call him? Daddy. Qingbao shouted again, her little fleshy feet stepped on his legs, and her little hands made trouble on his face. Gu Suiting put his arm around him to prevent him from falling, and pinched his face with the other hand. He looked at his facial features carefully. He had not noticed it before, so he couldn't help but be shocked by the sight. Qingbao's facial features are somewhat similar to his. Could he really? No, this is not possible. The only time he had with a woman was 3 years ago when the demonic poison in his body broke out, but that woman was in the capital at the moment. Moreover, she was not pregnant. Qingbao, why did you call me daddy? Dad, Qingbao called again. Gu Suiting is really going to be defeated by this little thing. When he returned, Gu Suiting smelled the aroma of food as soon as he entered the house. Shen Yizi, who was sitting at the table reading a medical book, put down the book and glanced at them. "Do you still want to come back? The food is almost cold." She went into the kitchen and brought out the vegetables and steamed buns that were warm in the pot. 3 dishes, salted duck eggs, scrambled eggs with chives, and stir-fried Chinese cabbage. She bought the salted duck eggs from the village. They used the best double-yolked duck eggs. They were large, the yolks were fat and oily, and they were salty and fragrant, perfect for serving with porridge. The staple food is steamed buns and mushroom and chicken porridge. To make steamed buns, she uses skin-on, fat and lean wild boar meat, minces it, and adds fresh bamboo shoots, chives, and soup. She made the soup last night, using chicken feet, pig skins and pig backbones. After boiling, she cooled it into aspic and added it to the filling. Wrap the buns and steam them over high heat. During the process, the aspic will dissolve into the fillings and bun skin, and when you bite it, you will feel like it is bursting with juice. The taste is simply amazing, so delicious that you don't want to brush your teeth. Shen Yizi can eat 3 of the palm-sized buns. If you have a squeeze, adding 2 more is not a problem. This was something she accidentally ate in her previous life. She was so shocked that she pestered the shop owner to learn how to make steamed buns. There is no other way, besides food, she has no other hobbies. As for treating diseases and saving lives, she sees it more as a challenge. Every time she solves a terminal disease that others regard as terminal, it will bring her an unprecedented sense of accomplishment. Come, try this steamed bun, I guarantee you'll still want it after eating it once. Shen Yizi gave Gu Suiting a bun. As for Qingbao, she has to feed him, otherwise he will burn his mouth. The 3 of them were eating when Li Chuntao walked in and said, "Sisters Hizi, my mother made oily fruit and asked me to." "Adorable baby, The Miracle Doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 20. Shen Yizi has a bad heart. However, before she could come up with an explanation, Li Chuntao shouted out, "Sisters Hizi, this is my brother-in-law, right? But, didn't you say before that your brother-in-law passed away?" Huh, he. Shen Yizi simply couldn't explain it, but at this moment, Qingbao opened his mouth and shouted to Gu Swiding, "Daddy." At this time, Li Chuntao no longer had any doubts about Gu Swiding's identity. Shen Yizi's head was so big that he couldn't figure it out. "Where did you come from? Gu Swiding is not your father." At this time, Li Chuntao had already imagined a love-hate drama between her and Gu Swiding. Sisters Hizi and her brother-in-law were originally a match made in heaven, but they were persecuted by those coquettish bitches, and as a result, they were pregnant and drifted to their Jiazhuang with the current. Isn't that what is written in those scripts? Yes, that must be the case. Thinking of this, Li Chuntao couldn't help but look at Shen Yizi with sympathy. But then I thought about it, now that my brother-in-law is here, he must take Sisters Hizi back to live a good life. She should be happy for her. Shen Yizi watched the little girl's expression changing, and felt that even jumping into the Yellow River would not wash her away. She couldn't help but glare at Qingbao and Gu Swiding. "Sisters Hizi, I put the fruit here, so I won't disturb your family of 3 from eating." Hey, Shen Yizi also wanted her to take some buns back, but she didn't stop him. After sitting down again, the dinner table fell into silence for a while. "Mr. Gu, why does Qingbao call you daddy?" On the other hand, after Li Chuntao returned home, she couldn't help but tell Aunt Li about Shen Yizi's family. "Mom, guess what I saw when I went to Sisters Hizi's house just now?" "What?" Aunt Li was washing clothes in the yard and didn't even raise her head when she heard the words. Li Da-chun, who was chopping firewood on the other side, couldn't help but pricked up his ears. "I saw a young master who looked like a god, Qingbao even called him daddy." "What?" Aunt Li was not calm at all now. She didn't even bother to wash her clothes, and wiped her hands on her apron. "Tao tell me quickly what's going on." Within breakfast time, the news that Dr. Shen's husband came to see her spread throughout the village as if it had wings. Shen family. Seeing that Gu Swiding was still eating, Shen Yizi simply packed up the remaining buns for him and stuffed them over him. "You hurry up and take them to the mountains to eat. If someone catches you still in my house, I will have 8 mouths. I can't even explain it." Unfortunately, before Gu Swiding could leave, he was blocked in the house by a meddling woman from the village. "Oh, this is Dr. Shen's man, he's so handsome." "That's right, he looks dignified. He must be the son of a wealthy family." "This young master, what is your surname?" "My surname is Gu." "Oh, Mr. Gu, listen, he has the same surname as the emperor." A group of women talked to each other, surrounded Gu Swiding, and asked questions. Shen Yizi was squeezed out. She glanced at Gu Swiding, who was surrounded, and gloated, "I told you not to leave early. Was it blocked?" However, the next second, the fire burned her. "Mr. Gu, you don't know. When I rescued Ji Niang from the river, she was in such a miserable state. There was absolutely nothing good about her face." Aunt Li recalled Yao Niang's miserable condition at that time. "It's a great blessing that Ji Niang survived. As he suffered so much back then. It was indeed my fault as a husband that caused her to be assassinated by others." Gu Swiding stood up and bowed to Aunt Li. "Thank you, Aunt Li, for saving Aji's life. I can't thank you enough." "Oh, this can't be done. Get up, get up." Aunt Li hurriedly came to help him. However, Gu Swiding insisted on finishing the ceremony, and then handed over to everyone present. "Thank you for giving Aji a place to live, and thank you for the villagers who have taken care of Aji's mother and son in the past 3 years. If it weren't for you, mother and son, I'm afraid I won't be able to find him until he comes." He looked happy. Such a handsome young man who looked like he was born into a wealthy family was so polite to them, which made everyone feel flattered. Aunt Li waved her hand. No matter what, Ji Niang has helped us a lot in the past 3 years. Anyone who has a headache usually goes to Ji Niang, and she has never confiscated any money from us. We should be more grateful to her. That's right, Dr. Shen also helped us a lot. Others are busy echoing. The whole morning was spent under the prying eyes of various people. Shen Yizi didn't bother to make lunch, so he simply heated up the leftovers from last night and had a simple meal. In the afternoon, the villagers finally calmed down, but they were gossiping wildly among themselves. For example, why was Shen Yizi disfigured in the first place? Why did they live in their Ljiazhuang? What is the family background of Mr. Gu? After Li Yinhua heard about it, she couldn't help but be very curious about Mr. Gu. They say Mr. Gu is handsome, but how handsome is he? The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't sit still. He took out his most beautiful clothes, put them on, combed his hair again, and went to Shen's house. In the main room of the Shen family, Shen Yizi breathed a long sigh of relief and felt tired. Gu Swiding poured her a cup of tea. Just now, how did I act as a husband? Shen Yizi rolled his eyes. Thank you. Gu Swiding took the opportunity to make a request. Then should you repay me? For example, cook me more delicious meals. Shen Yizi looked at him from beginning to end and felt a little confused. Okay, how about we eat dumplings tonight? There is still a lot of aspic cooked before, so you can add some into it when mixing the dumpling fillings. Okay, Gu Swiding nodded reservedly, already looking forward to it. Shen Yizi chopped the stuffing and left the job of kneading the dough to Gu Swiding. Although he didn't have the best kung fu, he still had enough strength. During this period, Shen Yizi reminded him from time to time, but he seemed to be doing well. As for Qingbao, just be responsible for being cute on the side. Everything was ready, and the three of them gathered around the table and started making dumplings. Qingbao and Gu Swiding also helped with the packing, but looking at the different things in their hands, are they called dumplings? She didn't even look. But forget it, as long as they are happy, it will only be a waste of flour. In any case, the dumplings they made were unlikely to make it into her pot. Rura. Qingbao finally made a dumpling wrapper and stretched out his hand to let Shen Yizi add fillings to him. Shen Yizi scratched his nose. Little magic star. Add minced meat to him, it's ready. Gu Swiding looked at the dumplings in his hand and compared them with those made by Shen Yizi. He was about to hide them, but she saw them. Ha 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 ha, are those dumplings you made? I'm telling you, you too can eat the dumplings you made tonight, do you hear me? Gu Swiding watched her mocking him mercilessly, feeling annoyed in his heart, but he couldn't help but smile in his eyes. At this moment, a voice intervened. Dr. Shen, I've been having a headache lately, please help me.